Let's go live now into our studio. I'm joined by Stav Cohen and also Ron Bar-Yoshafat to talk about the settlement question. Let me ask this question. It wasn't that long ago that President Trump looked Benjamin Netanyahu in the eye in front of the world's cameras and said, I need you to hold back on the I'd like you to hold back on the settlement construction for a little bit. How can Netanyahu and Trump believe and say they're still committed to the peace when they keep building new homes?
Well, I think first of all, they're not building so much in the settlements, which I think is the reason why a lot of settlers are not very happy with Netanyahu's administration. I think Netanyahu lacks a vision. I think he lacks a policy. Building 3,000 units is not a lot when you consider this huge territory that we're discussing. And there are settlement blocks that are enormous cities.
It's a little more than 3,800. So would you say it's either, it's not either do nothing or build more? This kind of little bit of a trickle is not enough?
I'm saying Netanyahu needs to present a policy so that we can see what we're referring to. Because I think, for example, the building in Bet El, he announced several times that he's going to build there, and it never happened. And they're announcing now the 300, I think, new units in Bet El, which are the same ones he announced 6 months ago. So are those new? Are there addition? According to sellers, they're not an addition. These were approved many times and never really executed.
Well, your reaction, if you can jump in here.
Well, I think the pick of choosing Trump is not really relevant. He also said that you can have a one-state, two-state, whatever we choose. The point is, why in the year 2017 people will say it's not okay for Jews to live in Judea? That's my question. At the same time that we're trying to build maybe 4,000 units, the Arabs in Judea and Samaria have built tens of thousands of units, and no one is saying that that's wrong. So the question here is a whole different question. An Arab from Israeli and a Jew from Israel, both coming to live in Judea and Samaria. For the Arab Israeli, it's going to be okay. For the Jewish Israeli, it's going to be wrong. I think that's morally
Well, doesn't
problematic.
that speak to the international, and especially with the last year, the United Nations resolution saying the settlements are illegal under international law, adding to them, even within an existing bloc, is not the way to promote peace.
I think there's a consensus I don't think anyone is saying it's wrong for a Jew to live in Judea and Samaria. I think there are many big settlement blocks who are universally, I think, agreed upon, even if not in terms of international law, but they're agreed upon. And I think the building of isolated settlements is really taken away from improving and adding to the settlement blocks. And I think misleading information from our government, they're approving things and they're not doing it, and they're proving it again and they're not doing it. I think it's wrong for the settlers to live in that sort of misleading
Ron
environment.
certainly says it's not wrong at all. Let the Jews live anywhere they want within this territory,
That's
correct?
just not
Is that
smart.
should they live within these settlements?
That's just not smart. Why would you build a home for someone and you're going to be destroying it in some future agreement?
So I want to make one thing clear. There is a political discourse if Jews should or should not live in Judea and Samaria. It's not really a legal issue. The fact that people try to use the terminology as if it's a war crime for a Jew to live in Judea and Samaria is false, and it uses a tool to prevent Jews from living there. That's number one. Number two, to say if it's good or bad, that's one question, but that's a whole different story. If it's Israel's interest, or are we doing a wrongdoing for another group of people, in which I completely disagree with the latter. Now, to say that it's not in Israel's interest, I'm trying to understand. There's a family, they have children, they want to live next to their parents. 4,000 units, we're talking about all of the buildings of Judea and Samaria together, it's less than 5% of all of Judea and Samaria. It has nothing to do with the peace treaty. The reason why we don't have peace is the incitement that's coming from the PA or Hamas.
What's your response to, it may not be a big development, it may not be a lot of construction, but it's still illegal under international law. It's not
illegal under international law. International law, the sources of international law, the first and foremost important is treaties. And if you're looking at the Oslo Accords, which I'm personally not a big favor of, there is no limitation of Jews to live in Judea and Samaria. It only began with the Clinton administration in the year 2000. We have a very short-term memory. No one ever said that Jews should not be allowed to live in Judea and Samaria.
But last year's UN resolution 2234, of course.
UN resolution has a lot of implications, and it will cause damage to the settlement movement, but it doesn't say that the settlement movement is illegal. It doesn't say that Jews should not live in Judea and Samaria, or they should not build. The concept that if someone is opening or closing a balcony, that's a war crime, it's inconceivable. It's nonsense. It doesn't belong to the international law.
Stop.
I don't think, I definitely do not think it's a war crime crime to live in Judea and Samaria. I think if anything taught us from the disengagement from the Gaza Strip is that we need to do everything within an agreement, because we can get a better deal doing anything when we're negotiating than we're doing a one-party solution. And I think it is wrong. The world is against building in the isolated settlements, and I think they're right to do so, because those are homes that are potentially going to be destroyed, and they are Israeli families. These are people that need to be considered. It's not okay to just dislocate a family a few times.
I appreciate this discussion. We have to leave it here. I want to thank our guests, Stav and Ron. Thank you so much for being part of this discussion. Obviously, any construction, any new homes in the West Bank, it generates an international headline, so I'm glad we're able to get both sides here. I appreciate you guys so much. Of course, this is not official news yet. The reports are that next week it will be approved by the Planning Committee, and we will stay on top of it here on i24news.